What's up, YouTube? Sitting down with Nick Young, Velox Training Group.
Hello.
Recently, oh, sorry, I should let you intro yourself.
No worries.
We recently dropped a video about the best drills for new shooters, and there's already a bunch of comments, so I thought we should go through and answer those. Normally, I try to go through, and if it's just an easy yes or no or one sentence answer, I try to just answer your questions in the comments. But some of these take enough explanation that would be a lot to type out, so I thought a video would be more helpful. The first comment, which I liked, some of these drills are great for not new shooters too. I agree with that because kind of
Yeah,
regardless of skill level.
yeah. Doubles, good example.
Yeah, it's like
Are you ever like finished with that? No, I don't think so.
I have not reached the end of the line yet. The first question for the one shot return drill, if my dot doesn't return, how can I fix that? Most of the time it's low, but I'll have the dot return in random places as well. Thank you.
hmm So, like to me, where the dot returns should key you into what is actually happening with your grip and your vision, and that's why that drill, be it super redneck simple, it's like very, very powerful in my opinion to be able to show you like what is actually happening. And that is why we're doing that drill, right? We're trying to observe like, hey, how is the dot coming back down to where we're trying to get it to come back down to? And if it's not coming back down to exactly the same spot very, very quickly, it's like, why is that happening? So for me, just like off the top, when I hear like, hey, it either returns low or in a different spot each time, that sounds to me like there could be several different things happening. Up front, I think some certain people would totally disagree with what I'm about to say, but try to explain it the best I can. So I think when you do something like just look at brown, the gun will return anywhere on brown, right? Eyes always tell the hands what to do. So the smaller that we can look on the target, the better off in regards to the types of pressures that we end up putting on the gun. Are we putting different pressures or whatever? That's quite obviously what's happening here, right?
Mhm.
He's putting different pressures on the gun and it's returning to a different spot. For me, the more I focus on like just burn a hole in the target exactly where I want the dot to return, the better the grip pressures are. So I think a lot of the time, this is stemming from just looking at brown or maybe the shape of the target rather than being very, very particular with where the dot returns to the target. Would you say?
Yep, I agree. So, like what you said, if it's not going back, that's input you are doing. A couple different things happen. Normally, it's related to either people feel the kick of the gun going off and they want to fight
Mm-hmm.
that, or they see the dot start to lift and they want to fight or influence that also.
Mm-hmm.
The important part, the way I think of it, is just holding the gun with my hands, not holding the gun with the rest of my body or chest or back or shoulders, and kind of just let the gun do its thing because I'm not trying to stop the gun from recoiling. I'm letting
Nope.
it do its thing. I'm just trying to have, like, the gun just does whatever it's going to do. And I'm just looking at the point I want it to go back to when it's done doing its thing.
Yeah, like trying, quote unquote, trying to return the gun typically ends up being like someone going like get back down, that like that sort of thing.
That's like
It'd
the
be
way you
like
talk to your wife, right?
yeah, get down.
Get in the
She's
kitchen.
Puerto Rican, and she would cut me.
Your
Um,
wife's a
but
nice.
it would be very similar to like driving your car and you're about to go around the turn and you just yank on the wheel rather than giving it the proper amount of input to go in the direction that you're
Finesse.
going. Yeah, and it's like your eyes tell you how much to turn the wheel. I think shooting is very, very similar to that, where we like look and we go, hey, I need this amount of input to go exactly right there.
Mhm.
So I think one shot return is showing you how much input you need to return the gun and what you need to do with your vision. Because, like, to me, I think you do need some sort of input to return the gun, but the amount is so very little. I think that's the part that people don't realize. Like, it's not a whole lot of input to return the gun.
Yeah, and it's about finesse. It's not a muscle thing.
Mm-hmm.
because
Yes.
a lot of people, well, I regularly have, well, it's not uncommon to have people in class that can beat me up. It wouldn't be that tough to do, but it's not a physical thing. So the fact that you could, I'm not gonna say rip a phone book in half, but whatever, the amount of weights you can lift or physical
Yeah.
strength you have isn't really related to being fast with the pistol or returning the gun. It's not a strength thing. It's just a finesse thing. You just hold the gun with your hands in a way that it doesn't move around inside your grip, and then you just look where you want the bullets to go. And if you
Hmm.
try to use your muscles to make that happen quicker, or use your muscles to stop the gun from flipping as much or torquing or moving, that's going to have a negative outcome also.
Do you try to conceptualize, or do you try to, well, let me phrase it like this. How fast do you try to return the gun? Or do you even think about like returning the gun quickly?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, yes, I want the gun to snap right back immediately where I'm looking, but I try to do that more with the demands of my vision than the demands physically from me. Because
Yep.
I feel like if I get lazy and I just look, the gun might float back, but it won't have a sense of urgency.
Yep.
So it's like mixed messages. Yes, it's important to have a sense of urgency and have the sight snap right back where you're looking, but I don't really feel like I'm obtaining that by using uh body like muscles for my body.
I agree. Yep. Yep. I agree. I try to prioritize that as well though. Like I want it to snap back like right freaking now.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the flip side of that would be you'd be shooting, it'd be like it lift, and then at some point it goes back, it lifts, and at some point it comes back, and it would just be too slow.
Yeah. And I will say this too. I think the more I focus on those things, like getting the sight to come back down not only quickly but very, very precisely, the
Mhm.
flatter the gun is. And I think this is something that, dude, you see it all over the internet. People focus on like, hey, flat, flat, flat. And there are so many flat guns that return low left that you can look at. Like it's bananas to me.
Well,
I think it's just focusing on the wrong thing, in my opinion.
spoiler alert, if you watch somebody's slow motion video, it's like, oh, look how flat this is. And at the end of the recoil stroke, like you see, if you watch the muzzle of the gun, if it bounces really hard at the end of that, that's actually just too much firing hand tension. And I can think of, well, I've even seen instructors show like, oh, this gun shoots so soft, so flat. And you watch the gun at the end, and it looks like an EKG at the end of the recoil stroke. That's a sign of too much firing hand tension and not really what you want. Instead, the gun should just bounce and come right back to where you're looking without that extra kind of bounce or bobble at the end.
Hmm. Yeah.
Tag your
Once you see it, you can't unsee
tag your favorite instructor below. It'd be once in a while somebody be like, "Oh, look how flat this gun shoots," and I'll like
it.
DM it to Nick or a few other people. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's so flat. Only your grip is not very good, sir." Let's see the next question. I see myself as a new guy who's been doing this quite a while. I feel the same way all the time. We can't wait for the Brantley video. So I've got a lot of comments, or I've mentioned that several points. It'll be for people not familiar. I have a podcast also. It's called Training Group Live. Nick's been on that many times, but there is a podcast with Brantley Merriam coming. It'll be Tuesday. So by the time you listen to this, it'll either be published or very soon.
Sweet.
Let's see. In relation to building an index, what do you think would be the best thing to do if I need to do this on two fairly different pistols? I feel like it was decent at it with my 2011 when I started shooting a rimfire match where I'm shooting a striker pistol with a pretty different grip and a higher mounted red dot. My index seems to have fallen apart some on my 2011. Would it be impractical to try to use the same style pistol in these two different disciplines? Um, but I'm feeling like I've hurt myself some. Let's see, reaching for different pistols in the holster over the weekend. He only dry fires with his 2011. So anyway, that's it. So to summarize, two different pistols with two different indexes, different red dot heights, and he's having trouble building an index to bounce between the two. Briefly, index is just what we call if you stare at the point where you want the sight to go, you just draw the gun and the sight goes exactly to where you're looking, not somewhere else, and then you make a correction. Instead, you just look there and the sight just magically shows up where you're looking. So, what do you think?
Yeah, so like his question completely makes sense to me, and I would agree. Like that is super duper hard. I have so I'll answer it with like a kind of a sort of a story. I've had this one guy who has come to classes. Every time I do a local class, he's there. Super nice guy, tries mega, mega hard. But for the longest time, every time he'd show up, he's like, different pistol and the exact same shooter. And finally, I was like, my man, you have to stop. Like, I appreciate you coming, but like, you have to stop switching pistols, man. And because like this is doing nothing but hurting you. And since then, dude, he has gotten so much better. Like
Good.
it's been very cool to watch that guy. But I think part of there were a lot of issues, but part of it was back and forth, right? Like one day he'd show up with a 2011, next time it's with a Glock, and it's just like it was just completely different each time. So I don't switch platforms that often, man. Like I shoot Walthers. Yes, I'm biased. I shoot four Walther, but even if I didn't, I would just pick one gun to go shoot with. I don't know that many people that can, shoot several different guns and be really, really good at it outside of Major Insano. I think Ben can do that pretty good, but I think at this point, like he's used to it. Every time I see him, he's got a different gun. But um, I mean, I think for the average dude, it's going to be harder, man. Like you pick up one gun that you're not used to. Index, I wouldn't expect the index to be good, to be honest.
Yeah, and a little bit of behind the scenes that people would not be familiar. Ben has tens of thousands of rounds or hundreds of thousands of rounds on each of those platforms. So he's kind of able to recall that training and putting words at this point, I think it's safe to say I could put words in Ben's mouth and Ben would be like, yeah, that's true. But he's kind of able to recall that training or that feel with that gun. So for like Glocks, yeah, I mean maybe they use for military stuff or like I'll switch guns back and forth if I have to just to use the stuff that people in classes or students will have or agency, whatever. But Ben's done that to a level where there's so many rounds fired that he's able to switch guns and still shoot them all pretty well. But I'll put more words in Ben's mouth. It's not the same as training up for a match. If he was training up for a match to do his absolute best, you would not see him shooting a different gun every weekend. You'd see him pick one platform, have a couple matching guns, and just shoot that. Like if he decided he wanted to win another national title, which I don't know why he'd need 11th or 10th or however many he's got, but if he wanted another one for like a doorstop or something, you'd see him like pick a platform, get three or four of the pistols that are matching, and just shoot that. It would
Yep.
not be like SIG weekend, Glock weekend, 2011 weekend.
Mm-mm.
So, like Nick, I like the Walther stuff. I'm not paid by them at all. I've got a couple free guns and some free mags. That's it. But I like them just because I can use the steel frame stuff for open enrollment or USPSA style stuff. And then for agency stuff, I can use the polymer frame gun from a Safariland style holster with an ALS. And
Yep.
they take the same magazines and they feel a little bit different, but they're pretty similar too.
Yep.
Otherwise, Glocks, I have a little bit just to use as loaner guns or if I have to shoot them. But if I'm training for myself, it'll be one of the Walther platforms just because they feel so similar. And then I've got, like, I'll shoot a little bit of Rimfire Steel Challenge once in a while just for fun. And I've got a gun that's set up with full quartz and parts and stuff, but I don't really have any expectations of greatness with that.
Yep.
It's something fun to do, and I'll go hang out with the boys, but I'm not, if I'm going to train hard for that, I would be just training with that pistol, not switching my attention around.
Dude, even if I'm gonna go teach a class somewhere where they're like, I have to use like I typically shoot my steel frame, and I know that the audience is going to be shooting a polymer frame gun,
Yeah,
whether it's like some sort of federal contract or whatever. Like, dude, I'll train with the polymer gun before I go, like a week or two before,
sure.
just to get used to the feel of a polymer gun. So I think dude, it's not easy to switch back and forth. So if you're trying to do well at matches, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just pick one.
And then I have a couple trips this year where I will not be taking a pistol with me. So I'll just take a belt rig and ammunition and a pistol be provided. So it'll be a Glock. That's why I've also got Glocks that like weeks before that, I'll be shooting my own stock Glock at home. That when I go there, if it has grip tape or not or whatever trigger, at least I'll be somewhat like familiar with the gun.
It gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
Is what it is. That's why it's a principle based approach. Hold the gun, crush the gun, laser focus where you want the bullets to go. you use the right pressures, you can shoot about any, how about this? You can shoot any gun fairly well with that using those techniques.
Sure.
However, you will never be able to use the force or be winning your club match or
Hmm.
posting runs for the Instagram if you switch guns.
That's right.
So for the person answering this question, to answer it directly, I think you have to pick one that you want to be really, really good at, and then the other one is just something fun to do with the boys. And I think it'd be really tough, like if it's an every other weekend thing. So it's rimfire weekend, then centerfire weekend. I think you have to pick one that you want to be really, really good with, and the second one is just a for fun or whatever happens kind of thing.
Agreed.
All right. Let's see. My most current A popular way to miss is pulling off a target too early. I assume designated target and patience is going to help with that. I almost always dry fire with trigger presses while working transitions. Do you think that has anything to do with inadvertently learning to be impatient? What are the pros of dry fire presses without trigger presses? I've heard you and Ben mention it before, but I think a deep dive would be helpful.
Yeah, so every now and then I will catch myself doing this on steel specifically, where I will look to the place that I want to hit, and then the dot shows up, and then I go, "Yep, it's there." Like as my eyes are starting to pull off, and it will be a miss. And so what I've done to correct that is just like make sure when I get to the steel, I have a very, very specific cue. And I'm looking for this cue to be able to pull my eyes off of that target. And that is just the trigger break. So I just try to like if I look to steel, like I actually have because I've been working on this, I have like dry fire steel in front of me. Um, like I make sure that I go trigger break and then look and then plant my eyes on the next target. But typically, what I would do, and I think partly because I have a good index, and a lot of the time, like I'll tag the steel just giving it a half ass look. But like I can't do that consistently. So I want to make sure that I plant my eyes on that steel and I'm not moving him until I have that trigger break. So looking for that one specific cue, I think, is the fix for that.
Yeah, I'll take a different approach from you. I know you like the trigger break exit kind of thing. So for Nick, like when you press the trigger, and then that's kind of your cue or your way to tell yourself to look at the next target. For most of my stuff, I prefer just a visual approach. I think it's they both get you to the same place. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
be laser focused and I'll be watching, and like I'll just stay looking at the target as long as I'm done shooting it. And then when I fire the second shot and the dot starts to lift off the target, then that'll be when I give myself permission to look off the target and find the next place and then wait for the sight to go there. So
Mm-hmm.
you could do it off the trigger break. So you're gonna pull the trigger twice. After you pulled it the second time, you look away. But for this person, if they're already having a discipline issue, maybe trying the approach I use would be smart, which is just it sounds like common sense. I'm not even trying to be condescending. You just keep looking at the target as long as you're done shooting it. It's really that simple in my brain. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just laser focus, and after I've shot two shots, then I will give myself permission to look away and find the next spot I want to hit.
Yeah. I took a Frank Proctor class probably I don't know how many years ago, but he had this drill on a plate rack that I thought was pretty fly at the time. So what he'd have you do is like point the gun at a plate, fire, right? As soon as you break the trigger, you just look to the next plate, but you leave the gun where you just left or where you just saw it last. You look to the next plate and then move the gun over. So you're not trying to like race to shoot this plate rack, but you're just like trying to ingrain the specific cues like trigger break, look, right? Trigger break, look. And then he's like, now run it. And dude, it was like couldn't miss after doing that sort of thing. So I think you're 1,000% right. It's like just look for as long as you need to and have specific cues to look for.
Yeah, and for the plate racks, people try to do that kind of like a fire hose where they just kind of swing it by and then try to time it. Again,
Mm-hmm.
the best way to shoot a plate rack, in my opinion, is just one plate at a time. So you just look at the plate, you wait for the sight to get there, you press the trigger. Yes, if you shoot the plate rack over and over again all afternoon, you'll get to the point where you'll know the timing. You could use the force or kind of just look through the gun and
Mm-hmm.
smash the plate rack down. But that's not really the way most people will perform on demand in a match or with
Mhm.
pressure. That's just in a training environment, you get enough looks at it or you do something over and over again. Well, how about this? If I set up like a target transition type drill, random, whatever I pick for that day, if I shoot that long enough, I'm not saying I could shoot it with blindfolded, but you get to the point where you kind of know what the feeling is to
Yep.
get to where each of the target. That's why still challenge people. I'll pick on them a little bit. If like one of the targets 1 yard too much to the left or right, those people like they swing their little gun, they'll know it's not right on because they've shot the stage for 10 years without it changing, and people know exactly how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to feel, all those sensations. So,
Well, dude, I've heard of like KC shooting like a steel challenge stage blindfolded and not missing.
surprise me. Yeah.
And it's like he knows where all of that shit is.
You shoot those things to boredom. Yeah, you just understand how it's supposed to feel, and then.
Yep.
But I would not say that's advantageous for your training,
No.
unless you're a still challenge shooter. Maybe that means makes sense to you. That's why I really prefer side tangent for most of my training is a variable setup. So I'll have a theme that I'm working on. So to get back to this guy's question, target transitions. Every time I go out, if I'm working on target transitions, it'll be dealer's choice that day. I'll have a couple closer targets, a mid-range target, a farther target. And normally
Mhm.
it'll be 3, 4, 5 targets. It'll just be wherever I drop the target stands that day. That's it. Some narrow
Yep.
transitions, some wider target transitions, but it's never really the same for 2 days in a row because I don't want to have your muscles don't have memory, but I don't want it to be something where I memorized exactly how it's supposed to feel or look. I'd rather just get a fresh look at something I've never seen before and then try to just figure out the problem while I'm on the range.
Yeah, you're trying to build that skill rather than like, hey, this is where that target is going to be every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, then you
Yeah,
wouldn't even hang targets. You could just shoot between the sticks and the on the target stand and be good to go then I suppose.
exactly. Yeah, set up the conditions for what you're trying to work on and then go work on that particular skill, not the drill itself.
Very smart of you. So to answer this person's question directly, I think so. Using a dry fire press or not using a dry fire trigger press, I think is best used for just finding the middle of the target. So discipline in that way. If you're having an issue where you're looking away too early or too late, then you do want to do the trigger presses because the problem isn't you looking at the target. The problem is kind of the combination of you pressing the trigger and you looking away.
Mhm.
All right, next question. I'm a relatively new shooter and carry a stock Glock 43X, which is well suited for my low key line of work, getting a target focus and doing good. I can hold the USPSA zone with doubles at 5 shot strings at 10 yards. However, once I do transitions and shoot on the move, my alignment goes to crap. What can I do to improve? Thank you for your commitment to teaching.
So that is an extremely difficult gun to shoot,
Hmm.
especially doing the things that he is trying to do. Is it out of the realm of possible? No. Um, However, I do think that the road to him getting better and accomplishing the goals is going to be a little bit longer than it would if he had a little bit bigger gun, possibly with a dot, like 5 inch full size gun. To me, like I have a small gun that I carry from time to time. Do I shoot it a lot? No. And like, do I shoot it? Yes, I'll go out and shoot it, but that is not going to be my main training gun simply because I feel like if you had a little bit bigger gun, like just this one as an example, because it's sitting right here next to me, but like a little bit bigger gun with a dot, you will learn quicker on this, and then you can apply the exact same concepts to the smaller gun. So for me, I'm not saying go out and buy a different gun, but that would most certainly help. Um, Maybe things like trying to make the grip a little bit fatter would help to try to get more of your hands on it because that's usually the hardest thing for me, like getting enough hand on the grip. Usually with those little guns, the grip is so small, I end up just gripping the other fingers instead of the gun. So like making the grip a little bit fatter would make it, I think, a whole lot easier for you to shoot. Um, but yeah, I don't shoot a ton of small guns, man, just because they are considerably harder to shoot. And I'm just like, I feel like if I built the skill with this, I can pick up the smaller gun and do relatively similar things.
I'll start shooting a small gun like my Glock 48, and then I'll start calling that a man's gun around you. Remember we had Jordan in class for Rise Manufacturing? He had a comped rifle, and his gun broke. I'm like, oh, well, here, try this man's rifle. He's like, what? Like, yeah, it's a rifle built for a man. And then he never forgot that. Did a three prong on it. So
Yeah.
a couple things. He said once he does transitions and shoot on the move, alignment goes to crap. Like what Nick said, I shoot.
Sorry, I didn't really answer that question,
You're fine.
but go ahead.
You did. You said buy a different gun. Well, like what you were saying, the gun recoils a lot. So all the stuff is going to be tougher to do. If your grip isn't quite perfect or issues with your grip, the gun's going to recoil differently and it will be tougher to shoot it at distance or while you're moving just because of how the gun behaves and how much tougher it's going to get it to quiet down. So for a full size gun, you'll be able to shoot more aggressively. A small gun that recoils more, it might be more reactive shooting, where it's sight press, sight press, sight press, just not even for higher accountability because of how much the gun recoils and how little surface area you have to hang on to it. That
Yeah,
just
it's
territory on those guns.
yeah. How about this? Those little guns like that, they're like being married to a Puerto Rican chick, where every tiny mistake you make is amplified, right? Just
I'm worried about your
because,
home life now.
just because of how tiny that damn gun is, right? Like if you push on the gun a little bit with a big gun, what happened?
You're good. I still got you.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I
The
figured your
screen just
I figured your
disappeared.
phone was
Oh,
getting
there you are.
blown up by a Puerto Rican asking you why you'd say such hurtful things. And like, you just wait until you get done with this recording. I'll deal with you after that.
Exactly. No, but like I was saying, like if you push on a big gun, I notice when I do that, but it might not be as big of a deal. If I push on, a G43 that's tiny and I don't have a ton of surface area for my hands to be on, like it's a massive deal, man.
Yep.
Like that it's the difference in a Charlie and a Mike, to be honest. Like if we're shooting at say 10, 12 yards. And again, not saying that it can't be done. There's guys like Mike Pannone shoots those little tiny guns pretty often, at least it seems like. I always see him shooting little tiny guns online, and he seems to do a pretty good job with it. But yeah, I'm gonna say it's considerably harder for sure.
Yeah. Then the last thing for this, when you say like once you do transitions, your alignment goes to crap. I'd be interested to know if that's with or without ammo. Because without ammo, just doing the dry repetitions, there should not be an issue with the target transitions going to crap. But when you
Yep.
shoot ammo, that would be the consideration of the gun recoils more, and it's like it is physically tougher to keep the gun on target.
The more I hear about this, the more I feel like the gun is just slipping around his hands.
Yep.
And he doesn't have hand on the frame.
It's
He's
funny how
gripping his fingers instead of the frame, just because there's no room.
I agree. It's funny because YouTube does like suggestions, and the suggestions, like the cans comments, are I'm happy to help and recommend you start with slow static drills, focusing on alignment. The other one is cans. I'd recommend focusing on slow transitions with your eyes first. Like
Gross.
the bar is set so low for what the algorithm's picking up or suggesting. It's like, good grief. Please stop telling people this stuff. Next question. Is it common to push down on the gun when you shoot a new gun you're not used to or a gun you have not been shooting in a long time?
Yeah, probably so. Like, I'll use myself as an example. There's no shame in my game. Like shooting Ben's, what is that? The two K11.
Mhm.
Like I wasn't used to the trigger, and I wasn't used to like how the gun returns, and just shooting that thing, like just shooting doubles a little bit. Like I definitely pressed into the gun before I even shot it. Like I caught it. Like Jesus, just pushed into the gun. But it's like I don't do that on my gun because I'm used to the timing of the way that it cycles, the trigger, all of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, maybe when you're just getting used to it, until you figure out what the timing is, what the trigger's like, etc. Yeah, you might push into the gun for sure.
Yeah. I agree. It's just anticipating a better pushing
Yeah,
on the gun. So it's just getting used to that gun. Ideally, once you have your grip developed, you want to be able to just pick up any gun and just press the trigger and not push into the gun or anticipate recoil. But
Hmm.
sometimes with, like you saying, the trigger is heavier or lighter than you anticipate, that's the thing that's going to happen.
Hmm.
So you want to just intellectually, just like I think of it as hold the gun, crush the gun, put my brain in my firing hand, not to press down, try to just press the trigger only with my trigger finger. And with doing that kind of principle based shooting, in theory, you can shoot any gun fairly well without pushing into it. But depending on the
Yep.
caliber and all that kind of stuff, your mileage may vary.
Yep.
The next question is for trigger control at speed. You discuss trigger control at speed and being able to pull the trigger before the beep is done. I shoot an SPO1 DASA, so it'd be a CZ, and I have a very difficult time doing that in double action. Do I need to speed that up, or is that normal with double action?
So is what normal double action? Like it
So
being harder?
trigger control at speed, and he has a tough time getting the trigger pulled before the beep's done.
I see. Yeah, this is something that I think, like, can it be done? Yeah, for sure. But I think as soon as he focuses on, like, hey, get the trigger break done before the end of the beep, he's going to see a considerably worse result. Meaning, if he tries to go faster, he's going to see the sight move more. For me, I would say that's the speed at which you need to go and figure out how not to move the gun around as you're pressing the trigger. Like that's the thing to think about, not like how do I do this faster kind of thing. Because it sounds like he has to go slow to not move the gun around. I would say in the name of the drill, you just need to simply go faster and be okay with that result, and then try to apply cause and effect with what you're seeing and try to make some changes in your trigger finger as you're doing that. It's 1000% doable, in my opinion.
Yeah, depending on the weight and stuff. If it's a 12-pound
Mm-hmm.
double action, you might not be able to do it. The goal is just pressing the trigger immediately as fast as you can with disturbing it as little as possible. However, if I'm shooting a stock Beretta 92 or like a SIG 226, it's going to be really, really tough, regardless of skill level, to do that, where it's a non-tuned gun with a 10 or maybe 12-pound double action pull. Then
Mm-hmm.
some amount of movement's going to happen, and you try to just do the best you can. So the
Yeah,
goal is always aiming for perfection. However, sometimes it can be quite tough to do.
yeah. That drill in particular, I find a lot of people will just focus on the result instead of the process to get the results that they want, meaning they will just simply slow down.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, I'm not a big fan of. I'm constantly telling people like, "Hey, go faster," and they're like, "But it looks worse." I'm like, "I know, but you need to stay. You need to stay at that pace, and then only make the trigger finger move." So
Yeah,
it's like not slow down to make it better. You need to still go faster, but just move the trigger finger. I think that's what I would train.
I agree. You're always aiming for perfection.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's the end of the questions. I think we did it.
Cool.
Appreciate you taking the time.
This
This
is
is
a
a bit
good.
longer form video than normal. So in the comments, let us know if you like this or if this, like you fell asleep or you already got your drive done to work and the video was too long or, however you consume content. So if you like more longer form like this, let me know in the comments or if you prefer the shorter videos. And if you like more nonsense like this, you can find Nick on YouTube as well. It's a Velox training group, which is VELOX. So
Yep.
cool, man. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, man. Of course.